I am Cam from epicconversions.com, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about finishing projects. Um, if you notice, I'm all bundled up, I'm layered up. I've come out to my van to talk to you today. I got tired of being in the house. There's snow everywhere. Okay, it is the last 2 or 3 days. Snow has been coming out my ears, man. There's so much snow. It's crazy. I shoveled my driveway yesterday. Shoveled my driveway the day before, and there must have been 2, 3 feet of snow on that damn driveway. It's crazy. But anyways, so I wanted to talk to you about finishing projects. So today I was I I finished up a project. Um it was a newsletter. It was a like so for several years I ran this club called the Newsletter Club, and I just closed it in December. For it's kind of it's not really a long story. I think we could just summarize it down to one thing: AI. AI is why I closed the Newsletter Club. I still had probably about 100 members in the Newsletter Club. So it was still technically doing pretty good. It was doing okay. But I personally did not believe in the newsletter club anymore, the PLR newsletter club, because I felt like, hey, a lot of people can just go to AI to get their content now for like this type of content, this licensed content where, if you want content that you're going to use and you pay someone else to write the content for you, like it's like licensed content. I just felt like PLR and stuff like that kind of like it really is coming back to AI now. That's kind of how I feel. Maybe that'll change in the future. I've always enjoyed the licensed content business. So maybe it'll change in the future, but right now I feel like AI's kind of got the high hand on content creation, as far as like when people don't want to create their own content, instead of getting PLR licenses from other people, I think more and more people are going to start just using AI. If the lighting is weird for you, it's because my windshield is covered with snow, so it's a little dark in here. So anyways, so okay, so yeah, so the PLR club, right? So I told all those guys that I was gonna do 2 more months of content for them. So January and February I'm gonna be doing. So I just wrapped up January's issue of PLR Club newsletter, and this one's called the January Christmas, right? And it's all about one of my favorite subjects. It's all about PLR. Not PLR. When I say PLR, it's not about PLR, okay? It's about public domain, okay? I was talking about the public domain, which is an amazing subject, man. There is so much opportunity in the public domain, and now with all this new technology that's out, there's even more opportunity with public domain. Um, I actually, got my start online selling physical books on Amazon, but when I made a jump to kind of like digital products, I wrote a book on Amazon first. I wrote it. It was about how to sell books on Amazon. It's called Broke to Boss. Talking about how to sell. It's talking about the used book selling business. Is what I was writing about. And then um, I was like, I like this book selling thing on Amazon, as far as like Amazon KDP and these digital books, but I don't really. I can't write books all the time. I mean, like, how can I get a lot of books out there on Amazon? And this was like a long time ago, man. This was like, I don't know, 2013 or something, 2014 maybe, something like that. And I was like, how can I get a bunch of books out there on Amazon so I can start making money from digital publishing, So my answer to that was, public domain. I realized that like a lot of old comic books were in the public domain, the golden age comic book stuff. And then I realized there's a lot of content out there that cannot be copyrighted, like recipes or statistics. things of that nature, cannot be copyrighted, and you are free and clear to use a lot of that public domain type stuff to create your own stuff out of it, right? So I kind of realized that, and I was off to the races, and I had a lot of books on Amazon for a while for public domain stuff, and I think I've talked about this before. But the point is, I like public domain. Public domain's really cool. I don't know how you could not like public domain. Public domain is fantastic. There's a lot of opportunity from public domain, a lot of ways to make money. But anyways, so I was talking about that. I called this newsletter for January. I called it the January Christmas, right? Because that's what this is all about, the January Christmas. January 1st is public domain day, right? So anyways, but I got that newsletter done, and I started that newsletter today and finished that newsletter today, right? So you might think, well, how long is this newsletter, right? So it's about 10,000 words, right? About 10,000 words is about what it is. It's a 14 email newsletter series. Basically, it's 14 emails surrounding one topic, and it's about 10,000 words, give or take. 8 to 10,000 words is what they usually equal. I don't use AI. This is human written content. Now, you might think, well, how did you start that today and finish it today? That's a lot of writing. 8 to 10,000 words in one day, man. How do you do that? Well, I can tell you, like, throughout my career online, it's always been about finishing projects, and it's always been about keeping your projects moving forward. Um, so when it comes to like writing, I have always kind of preferred audio trainings to writing, because writing is, for me, it's like, you know, I don't know, it's just not always my favorite way to do things. But at the same time, I write a lot. I write a lot of emails. I write 3 to 6 emails a week to my list. I write content on various other platforms and stuff. So I do a lot of writing. But the thing is, when you produce content, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's writing, I think it's really, really, it pays to be versatile, and what you're doing, to be able to go back and forth. Now, me, I go back and forth with the content styles. Like this right here, it's a video. It's a video, and it is being repurposed as audio content as well. This is going out to my Spotify. So some people will hear this as an audio, but it is originally video, and it's a live video. It's a live video stream. So you know, when you get a live video stream, that's another animal in and of itself, because you can't edit it, right? You got to kind of shoot from the hip a little bit. You can use bullet points. You can put a little script in front of you if you want to. But you kind of got to know a little bit more about what you're saying if you want to do the live stuff. But the point is, like, for me, like, I'm pretty versatile when it comes to content creation. I'll go back and forth with it depending on, how I'm feeling, right? Now, with Newsletter Club, with the PLR Newsletter Club, it was something that had to be published every single month. So how do I publish that every single month? It has to be published every month. It has to be written. There can't be any like months where I'm like, I don't feel like doing this. I don't know what to write about. I always had to come with something interesting to write about, and it always had to be written form, right? So how do I do that? Um, well, I'll tell you one way that you can do it is like, for me, I diversified how I got the newsletter written, right? So I started out, just, writing the newsletter, just writing the newsletters. And I started out, with this kind of, outlook of, well, I'll do 5 emails a day, and I'll do 4 emails on the last day. And so that's 5, 5, and 4, and that's 3 days to do the whole newsletter, and it'll be done in 3 days, right? And then I'll take the fourth day and I'll package it up, and it'll be good to go. So that's a 4-day process for my newsletter club. It's a 4-day process to get content out for them, and that was fine, and I did that for a while. But then I ran that club for like 3 years. So of course there came time where I didn't want to like spend 4 days working on this product, right? I had to find a way to do it quicker than that, right? So I kind of like came up with this method of content creation. I'll give you a couple that I came up with. I'll give you a few ways that I came up with doing Newsletter Club for creating content and stuff. So, anyways, so I decided I was going to put myself on a time limit when I was writing these emails. So I set this timer for 20 minutes and I said, okay, I have to get this email written in 20 minutes and then I'll take a 10-minute break. So 20, 10, 20, 10, 20, 10, like that, right? So I couldn't take longer than 20 minutes to write each email. And so I'd write the best email that I could in 20 minutes. And, sometimes, and I told myself if I got done before 20 minutes, it's fine. I'll take a break. I'll just take my 10-minute break early, right? And then I'll get back to it. So doing it with this way, it was 14 sets, right? 14 sets of 20, right? Because I wrote 14 emails, 14 sets of 20. But what I realized was doing it this way, it took me about 4 to 5 hours to do all 14 emails. Still 8 to 10,000 words of content. So literally I was doing like 8 to 10,000 words in 4 or 5 hours, which if you look that up, that's pretty good pace. That's a pretty good pace. But that just came from strict time blocking, right? That's 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off. 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off. The beauty of it is you got two timers going, right? You got your 20-minute timer, then you got your 10-minute timer. Now the beauty of it is that like that 10 minutes is not a lot of time. You got a 10-minute break every 20 minutes, but you can't do a lot in 10 minutes. Like I wasn't going to start playing a video game in 10 minutes because I wouldn't have time to do it. Pretty much the most I'd have time to do is maybe go outside, shoot a few baskets, maybe have a brief conversation with someone in my family, my wife, my kids, something like that. I don't really have time to get into a television program. It's only 10 minutes. Before you know it, it's beeping and you got to get to the next email. But anyways, taking these little 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, man, it allowed me to go super, super quick with the writing. Okay. So that's another way to do it, which that's crazy if you think about it, because what I used to spend 4 days on, now I could get everything done in 1 day just because of that time blocking process, which is crazy. Now what else? What else? Cause guess what? I'm a lazy guy and I got sick of doing that too. Sometimes I didn't feel like, because think about it, that's a 5-hour, that's called a sprint. That's what that is. Okay. In business terms, we call that a sprint, right? That 5 hours is hardcore. That's 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off. They call that a sprint, man. And you're not really doing anything during that 4 or 5 hours except that one thing. Essentially, you're creating what they might call an artificial construct, right? You're changing reality around you, basically to where it doesn't include anything except this one thing. You know what I mean? Like 20 minutes of writing, 10 minutes off. 20 minutes of writing, 10 minutes off. There's no eating. You can drink, right? Because you got some drinks right there with you, but you're not really doing anything else. You're not watching TV. You're not playing video games. You're not running off to like do anything special. You're not taking a run to the store halfway through or anything like that, man. It's 20 on, 10 off. It's a sprint, right? But by working like that, I was able to do 4 days of work in like 1 day. It was crazy. I felt like I'd unlocked a superpower. Another time, man, I got tired of writing, period. And I was like, man, I don't feel like sitting at my computer and writing at all. I don't want to write, man. I don't want to do that. So what I did was I was like, well, you know, I got to write emails. Maybe I can just like dictate the emails, maybe I can pull out my phone and you know what I'll do? I'll write the bullet points for what I want each email to be about, and each email I'd have like a little bullet point, like a 2 or 3 word bullet point of what I wanted that email to be about. So then I'd have like 14 emails and like I'd have like the bullet points for every email. Well, now I can go anywhere I want. I can go like park at Walmart and like dictate to my phone while I'm in the parking lot, or I can go to the park, even better, right? I can sit and watch the water while I dictate these emails. I can hang out in my backyard, I can do whatever I want. Now I'm mobile. Now I'm mobile, man. Now I can dictate to my phone and I'm mobile. So that's amazing. That freed me up to create this content in a different kind of way. So if I didn't feel like doing that 5-hour power sprint, because I don't always feel like doing that, man. Sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. Then I could do this dictation method to my phone, which is fantastic. And that's pretty cool. And what I do is I have all these, and I dictate it as an email, and then I'd send the email to myself. So now I'd have the 14 emails, and I'd send them all to myself. And then what I do is I'd go home and then I'd edit the emails and make sure, because when you dictate things to your phone, it's not always perfect. Okay. So I'd have to go through each email and kind of edit it and make sure it was the way I needed it to be. But still, pretty good. It was pretty good. It was a pretty painless process to dictate emails to your phone. Okay. So that's another way that I did it sometimes. And then I'll tell you a third way that I did it, with Newsletter Club. And that was basically, I would do like transcription, right? So what I would do was I have to take these walks, like every single day I walk. Well, like these last few days, it's been snowing really bad here. So I haven't been walking. I've been riding a bike, like inside, like an indoor exercise bike. But, most times I'll walk outside. So anyways, sometimes what I would do is I would have like my little bullet points, right? And I'd have them in my pocket and I'd go for a walk, right? And what I do is I'd pull out my little bullet points and I'd look at them. I'd say, okay, that's email 1. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So then I would just dictate to my phone, but I'm walking now. I can't like dictate an email while I'm walking. So what I would do is I would record it. I would record I would record like a message on my phone. Like just use any recording app, right? Your phone has recording apps. I just record it as a message to my phone. And then when I got home, I would take those messages and I would use like a transcriber, like an Otter AI, or like a TurboScribe. That's what I've been using lately, TurboScribe. Fantastic piece of software, TurboScribe. But I would take my audios and I would go to TurboScribe and I would have it like transcribe my audio file. And then I would take that transcription for each message and I would kind of like edit that into an actual email. So that's a third way that I would do it. That way works pretty good. And I would say all those ways work pretty good. Sometimes like you don't feel like doing any of them. It just depends. It just depends on what you do, on where you're at. Sometimes it's like you're like, man, I don't want to do this. I guess I'll do this today. Like with this public domain project I did here, January Christmas, with January Christmas, and don't ask me how you can get this January Christmas newsletter. You can't get it. The newsletter club is closed. Okay. The only people that can get the January Christmas newsletter that I just wrote are people who are in the newsletter club right now. And then people who join Epic Conversions Monthly. That's my new monthly newsletter. All these newsletters that I wrote that have PLR license on them, that's going to be volume 3 of Newsletter Club. And that's going to unlock for Epic Conversions Monthly members in month 3 of their membership. So on month 3 of their membership, like with Epic Conversions Monthly, this is a brand new membership club I just opened. Okay. Like there's like loyalty bonuses in that club. You get the newsletter every month. It's pretty cool. It's like a paid newsletter and you can read it and learn awesome stuff about how to make more money with your business. And it's fantastic. We do a live call every month, where people can ask me questions, how to get their business to where they want it. And then I do like an audio feed also. Like it's basically like a weekly podcast for those guys, premium podcast. It's private just for those guys in there. And that's Epic Conversions Monthly. but also there's loyalty bonuses with Epic Conversions Monthly. So like every month that they're a member of Epic Conversions Monthly, a new loyalty bonus unlocks. Okay. Well, the first 3 months basically unlocks the entire PLR newsletter club that I was talking to you about. Okay. The first month unlocks year 1 of the PLR newsletter club. The second month unlocks year 2 of the PLR newsletter club. And then the third month unlocks year 3 of the PLR newsletter club, which is what I'm talking to you guys today about. What the one I just wrote is in the final year newsletter club. But anyways, yeah, I'm just talking about finishing projects. I'm going into specifics here, but like, it doesn't matter about January Christmas. It doesn't matter about the newsletter I just wrote. I'm talking to you about finishing projects. How do you finish projects when you can't stand to do what you're doing right now? Right. And what I'm telling you is you can find different ways to do what you're doing. Okay. I just told you 3 different ways to accomplish the exact same goal. All right. Because, sometimes you don't feel like, dictating an email, and sometimes you don't feel like, doing a 5-hour power sprint. There's benefits to each of those ways. Like when you do the 5-hour power sprint, least amount of editing involved once you're done. You're writing it right there. It's very little editing. When you dictate the email, it's a little more editing, because you're dictating to an email, but you're also kind of like looking at it as you're dictating. So you can kind of edit things a little bit. And then, of course, with the audio, just recording the audio and having AI transcribe it for you, there's more editing involved in that. But still, I mean, all these different ways with the audio, it's like you're probably looking at like a 2-day process, But think about it, man. I started that as a 4-day process, and I trimmed it down to having 3 different ways to do it. None of them take longer than a day or 2. So I was really proud of how it ended up. I had this audio newsletter called Voicemail, and with Voicemail, the first year I ran Voicemail, it's a weekly audio newsletter, and now it actually is part of Epic Conversions Monthly. Now it's that weekly audio feed I was telling you about. So I still do Voicemail. It's in year 2. But Voicemail started out, it was a 5-hour process to put together an issue of Voicemail. No kidding. I crap you not. 5-hour process to put together an issue of Voicemail, man. Just, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours to record the issue, to record the episode there. And then like I did all this editing to it. And it wasn't like that it needed to be edited because of like I wanted to take out all the ums and ands and uhs and stuff. Like, it wasn't editing like that. It was like I wanted it to be like to sound a certain way. I wanted it to sound like an answering machine, and I wanted it to have all these like kind of like extra little things in it. And the way that I had put it together, I wanted there to be like answering machine beeps in between each part and stuff. So it was really fun to do it that way. It was really cool. It was a neat thing, but that was year 1 of Voicemail. And when I got done with year 1, I was like, dude, I can't do this 5-hour deal on these Voicemail issues. I can't do it, man. These are weekly issues. I'm not spending 5 hours on this one issue every single week. It's crazy. So in year 2, which I just started here in January, things changed, man. I was like, no, I want to spend bare minimum time on each issue, because the bottom line is this is basically a glorified podcast. And man, I got something I want to talk about in every single issue. I want to get a message across in every issue. And that is the point. All these other bells and whistles and all this other crap that was taking all this time, that's got to go bye-bye, man. Because it's either like that has to go bye-bye or I got to kill this project, right? One or the other, right? Well, I didn't want to kill the project. I like Voicemail. I wanted to move the project forward. So in order to do that, things had to change. Now, are you noticing a common theme? Common theme. I start projects and I notice they are taking too much of my time. So instead of just like quitting them or killing them, I generally find ways to get my time back. I find ways to make the projects easier. I find different ways to accomplish the job. I streamline them. I take what is most important, cut out all the frills, things like that. So so that's just a couple of examples of how to move your projects forward. It has to do a lot with, it has to do a lot with thinking about how much time you're spending on something. Because a lot of times, guys, if you're dragging your feet on doing stuff and you think the things that you're doing are important to your business, but you're dragging your feet on doing them, a lot of times it goes through this road of like it's tedious, right? Like it takes too long to do it. Well, a lot of times you can trim the fat off a lot of that stuff and you can say, look, man, this doesn't work for me in its existing form. It's taken too long to do this. It's too hard to do this. It's a multi-day project, whatever. What can I do to make it faster, to speed it up? And like maybe for you, that's using AI. For me, it's not usually using AI. I don't usually use AI to do my content. I like to do my own content. Like what we're doing right here. This is an exercise of me liking to do my own content. This is a issue, right? This is a episode of Cam from Epic Conversions, and I'm just talking to you guys. It is a live stream. This is not pre-recorded. This is not like I see Venus Lee is on the call right now. Hey Venus, I hope I'm saying your name right. This is not pre-recorded, this is live. Um, and this is I just like to do my own content. I don't need AI to do my content for me. I don't want AI doing my content for me. That's just not my thing. If it's your thing, that's fine. It's your thing. But for me, I don't really, I feel like part of what separates me and my content and what I do is doing it. Just the human element of what I'm doing. That's just me. And when it comes to, moving projects forward and finishing projects, I think that it is critical. It has to happen. And there's a lot of different ways that you can, use to kind of move your projects forward if you're having a tough time. All right. It's not a one size fits all solution for everybody. For everybody, it's going to be a little bit different, but there's always a way. Okay. There's always a way to move your projects forward. There's always a way to profit. All right. If you're having trouble right now and you're not profitable, there's always a way, man. There's always a way. A lot of times it's just about looking at it from a little bit outside the box, looking at it from a little bit of a different angle than what you've been looking at it from. Sometimes it's hard to see, there's this old saying, that I grew up hearing, you can't see the forest for the trees is the saying. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but it basically means you're too close to something, so you can't see it for what it is. Well, that's a lot of how it is in online business has been my experience. A lot of times you can get too close to these projects and you can't see a path to completion. You can't see a path to finishing, or you can't see a path to profit. And a lot of times it's because you're too close to it. You're too far into it. You got these ideas about what it's supposed to be. And, it's a little bit hard to like think outside the box sometimes because of that. But a lot of times the answer is thinking outside the box. And I'll tell you like a first step to that. A first step to that is taking a step away from the project. That's one way to kind of like remove yourself from the trees a little bit so you can see the forest. Just take a break. Just, take a couple days away from the project and then come back to it. And a lot of times, sometimes, not always, sometimes that can be the answer. But anyways, I just thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit today about finishing projects. I wrapped that project up today and I felt really good about it. I'm probably going to put together a little bonus newsletter for those guys for January. And then I'll come back February and I'll do another one. It'll be the last one I do for those guys. And I'll probably do another bonus one for them in February as well. And you might think, well, Cam, why are you doing these bonus newsletters when you've already closed the club? You're not going to get any additional money from anybody on it. What's the point? Well, look, man, it's for the love of the game. Okay. It's for the love of the game. And, those people who are in newsletter club, they were my loyal subscribers for years. Many of them were in there for years. So I want to treat my customers right. Just because I'm closing newsletter club, that doesn't mean they're not going to be my customers anymore. They'll probably, end up buying something from me in the future or joining one of my new clubs that I do. So, who knows? Who knows? But I just believe, you got to treat the people right who are in your clubs, and just go the extra mile for them and stuff like that. So, I'll make it happen. I'll get them some nice bonuses to finish this club up and to wrap it up, and just for the love of the game, man. Just for the love of the game. But anyways, today was just about talking to you guys about finishing projects. Newsletter club's going to be coming to a close here. But the future, Epic Conversions Monthly. Epic Conversions Monthly is the future for me and for Epic Conversions. So if you're interested in that, just get over to epicconversions.com and scroll down. You'll see something that says Epic Conversions Monthly. You can click on that and you'll find a link to get to Epic Conversions Monthly. Very, very easy. Just go to epicconversions.com and poke your nose around. You'll find a link to Epic Conversions Monthly. That's the future for me. And anyways, I hope this video has been helpful for you. Hope this live stream has helped you in some way, shape, or form. You help me a lot by leaving me a comment and giving me a thumbs up. Share this video with someone you think might enjoy it. And I'll see you tomorrow for another one. All right, peace now. I'm Cam from Epic Conversions. Peace.